For several decades after its first appearance in 1954, Godzilla has fought and defeated his fair share of kaiju, space monsters, giant moths, mechs of behemoth proportions, and even Lovecraftian gods. Many revere the ever-adapting, more scientifically driven Shin Godzilla for its creepy appearance and high potential. Others, like myself, stand the massively fast and powerful Godzilla from the Heisei era, while even fewer still admire the majestic, green-skinned Marvel Godzilla who dare to face off against Thor, the god of thunder himself. All of these are, pretty cool and all, but there is another version of Godzilla within the comic books that was so full of rage and yearning for combat that he didn't mind pulling up to the Olympian gods in attempts to declare himself not only as a king, but as a god amongst monsters. In this video, we're gonna explore Godzilla's adventure in the IDW comic Godzilla Rage Across Time, to see if his accolades cement him as one of the most powerful versions of Godzilla out there, or if he's yet another overhyped version of the nuclear beast. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right in. Although this video will be primarily about Godzilla, I will also be analyzing Greek and Shinto literary works to get an idea about how powerful Godzilla would be within the mythological aspects of the story. If you watch my channel for a while, you know that I typically value feats and power to determine the strength of a fictional character, but I thought this would be a nice change of pace. Out of the 5 issues, we'll only be focusing on the first and second ones since the others are pretty unimportant. Our story begins in 1274 during feudal Japan. Straight off the bat, the island nation was faced with a conquest by the gigantic Mongol Empire, which during the time was the largest empire in the world. Nowadays, its peak only being second to the peak of the English Empire. Kublai Khan, the grandson of Genghis Khan, had conquered large parts of the powerhouse that was China itself and then set his sights into Japan. To try to take over them, he sent out 900 battleships carrying a force of 40,000 battle-hungry warriors. And now this is where the historical accuracy ends, as the mind-controlled duo, Megalon and Gigon, were also sent out by the Mongols to make the victory as effortless as possible. Or so they thought. In response, 2 Japanese warriors decided to control a legendary serpent-like monster known as Yamata no Orochi, an 8-headed and 8-tailed beast that would put a stop to the army. But unfortunately, he was caught in a battle with Godzilla himself. It bit and roared at Godzilla, but to no avail. Godzilla responded by slamming it down and blasting it with its trademark atomic breath, killing the serpent about as quick as it appeared. Rest in peace, boyo. All hope seemed lost for Japan until Godzilla was baited into fighting Megalon and Gigon. He held his own against both of them and cunningly dodged their attacks, and he even used them against each other. Unfortunately for the Mongols, the mind control for the 2 kaijus was destroyed, and in response, both of them basically cucked away and ran away from Godzilla, leaving him free to basically utterly slap and blast away hundreds of battleships into the depths of the sea. According to real Japanese accounts, there were these massive fleets that were sent out by Kublai Khan, but fortunately, there were these massive typhoons which had smashed and destroyed the fleets. So basically, in this narrative, the typhoon was Godzilla himself. But we don't really care about that. What we are really here for is about Godzilla's defeat of Yamata no Orochi. The story behind Orochi is told in the Kojiki, a greatly important book in Japanese culture which talks about the creation of the heavens, the earth, and of the kamis themselves. Orochi was a huge monster, being as long as 8 valleys and 8 hills, who ate one of the 8 daughters of an old god couple every year until they were left with only their youngest, Kushi Nadahime, who represents the rice fields. Hearing their cries of despair, Susanoo, the Japanese storm and sea god, and brother to Amaterasu, the goddess of the sun, found the parents and said that he would save her from Yamata no Orochi if he could take their daughter's hand in marriage, to which the couple agreed to. Bro, she didn't even say yes, man. Anyways, to defeat it, Susanoo told the couple to make some very potent adult Kool-Aid drink. It's not actually Kool-Aid, but we'll just say it is, which got Yamata no Orochi so buzzed, and in turn, Susanoo was able to cut it apart and defeat it. If Susanoo had to heavily impair Orochi's senses to defeat it, it implies that he would have had a hard time defeating it normally, which speaks volumes about Orochi's strength because Susanoo actually has some pretty cool feats in the mythology. Susanoo is easily capable of destroying forests and mountains with ease, and he also shook the entire earth itself when he wished to say farewell to Amaterasu after being banished from heaven. And if that wasn't enough, when Susanoo was pretty sad boy, his weeping dried up all of the oceans and rivers on the earth, while mountains and valleys became devoid of greenery. So he basically absorbed the biomass of the earth itself, easily granting him planetary ranges of energy. Within the context of the Kojiki, he could be argued even higher, as the Earth and Heaven are two parts of the great universe itself. But at the very least, Susanoo is a planetary level god, yet Orochi was too much for him to handle normally, making Godzilla effectively planetary in this tale as well. And I mean, he defeated it without any special means, so that's pretty impressive. But in issue 2 is where we get to much higher territories of power. The next issue brings us into ancient Greek times. After Godzilla defeated two rival factions of ships, the Greek pantheon above grew concerned with what had happened and why the humans were battling each other without caring about what the gods thought. And the reason they got insulted is because back then it was pretty traditional to pray to the gods for a blessing in a battle. So basically due to this, Zeus was pretty upsetty spaghetti that the humans didn't call upon them, to back them up in their warring. So at Poseidon's request, he went to investigate, which little did he know would mark the end of his rule as king of the seas. Poseidon then encounters Godzilla himself, obviously, and battles him with futile results. Godzilla, of course, comes out triumphant and rides Poseidon's wave to reach Mount Olympus, the home of the gods. As he begins his Chad ascent, Zeus basically keeps spamming him with thunderbolts, trying to get a critical or, trying to paralyze him or something, seemingly not doing anything to him. In response, Ares, the god of war, gets pretty mad and charges at him, trying to cut his head off or something, until Godzilla casually one-shots him with the blue hue of his breath. Zeus at this point is like, alright bro, you wanna play like that? I'll play like that too. So he sends out the legendary multi-headed Hydra to fight Godzilla and puts up a much better fight, even as its heads are ripped off numerous times, continuously growing more and more in their place because he's able to regenerate. Hydra is revered for having very potent venom that can affect immortal gods, yet Godzilla got bitten numerous times and didn't seem to care. While Godzilla fights Hydra, he is continuously blasted by Zeus. He still thinks he's gonna do something. Growing angrier by the minute, Godzilla decides to just BTFO the whole pantheon by pushing Hydra into Mount Olympus to crumble and demolish it entirely. The destruction is quite massive as it manages to kill off all of the Greek gods but Zeus, meaning that Hades, Hera, and the cutie Aphrodite were all donezoed. Zeus then realizes that what Hera said earlier was true, that without belief from the humans or respect from them, gods are powerless. In a rage, Zeus acquires like some anime power-up and uses the last of his power to blast Godzilla with a massive lightning bolt, which he thinks was enough to kill him. Psych! It actually just displaced it from the time stream as Godzilla later re-emerged from Mount Vesuvius, seemingly unharmed, and in turn he causes the infamous Mount Vesuvius eruption, which destroyed and buried multiple cities, and also killing a now human Zeus in the process. So yeah, Godzilla pretty much pulled a Kratos in this storyline and managed to kill off all of the Greek gods. However, there is something quite important to mention here. Narratively, it's implied that the Greek gods' power was nerfed greatly due to the humans no longer praying to them or viewing them with importance. But just cuz, for fun, let's just wank this version of Godzilla simply going off of his victory over the Greek deities in a mythological sense. I'll be going over accounts told in the Hesiod, Homer's Iliad, and the Ovid, amongst other works to see how strong these gods are. Zeus is highly revered for his power as he's been said to have boundless might, which is pretty evident as it's been said numerous times that Zeus's mighty powerful thunderbolts could not only shake the earth and the heavens, but that he could destroy the universe and even affect the void of chaos itself. Hell, just by shaking his head, he shook the universe. During ancient times, the Greeks believed that the Earth was the centrical sphere of the universe. Why do we always believe that we're like the center of everything? Anyways, it was then surrounded by outer spheres of elements such as water, fire, earth, and air, which was then surrounded by more spheres representing the planets in our solar system. The cosmological sea that surrounds the Earth has been said to be boundless and eternal, in effect having a size beyond comprehension or, simply put, infinite. So Zeus basically shook and threatened to wipe out an infinite universe, and has done so multiple times in Greek mythology. One of his best feats was when he defeated Typhon, a serpent-like giant who was deemed as being one of the most powerful amongst Gaia's children. Typhon's terror was no joke as it had threatened the heavens itself, and many of the Greek gods couldn't compete with it, yet Zeus was Chad enough to defeat it with a signature thunderbolt. His brother Poseidon, the Lord of the Seas, and his brother Hades, the Lord of the Underworld, have been said to being at least comparable to Zeus and should be able to replicate the same universal feats as well. Hera, one of Zeus's many, and I mean many wives, was a mighty powerful goddess who not only defeated Titans alongside her siblings, but she had also created the Milky Way galaxy itself alongside several constellations, such as the Hydra and Crab formations. Hercules, who had managed to best Ares in combat before with Athena's help, as mighty as he was, still needed outside help and a special weapon to defeat Hydra, because its regenerative properties were way too much to get around. Hydra is no joke because it is one of the most feared guardians of the underworld, and it is effectively a monster that is more than a challenge for most Greek gods who can already perform star to universal plus level feats. But hey, Godzilla is the literal embodiment of a honey badger in this story because he didn't give any shits about Zeus's spammy ass thunderbolts, Poseidon's tsunamis, or Hydra's venom. Since he defeated many universal level beings, this would effectively make him universe plus, simply put, high universe level, although more than likely low multiversal. Speed, at the very least, massively faster than light, since Zeus's thunderbolts could reach realms in mere moments, and gods like Hermes are fast enough to travel from realm to deliver messages. However, he's quite arguably infinite, since he kept up with Zeus, who became omnipresent at one point, but it doesn't really matter anyways. I just thought it'd, be fun to go over the mythological aspects for once. So please don't take this skill seriously, okay? Plexiplox. The reason I didn't mention this version of Godzilla in my ranking videos, which if you haven't watched them you definitely should, was because it fell under similar territory like with Godzilla and Hell. Not only do we not know how powerful these gods are in this iteration, but it would be pretty weird, and at least it felt dishonest to me, to apply these mythological feats simply and automatically just because they are representations of said deities. Not to mention that within the narrative, Hera and Zeus realized that the power of the gods was nerfed, so to what extent, we don't know, but they definitely weren't at their best. So through mythological narrative, this Godzilla is pretty damn strong, but on paper, like on actual, on-panel feats and stuff like that, this Godzilla is at least high mountain level, due to him destroying Mount Olympus and causing the Mount Vesuvius eruption and the aftermath. So he is definitely stronger than, say, Shin Godzilla for example, but far from being the strongest one. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please let me know if you'd like me to do, more quasi-power scaling stuff like this down the line. Maybe I'll go over like other godly hierarchies in the future, since I really love reading up about this kind of stuff. And don't worry, I got the King Ghidorah ranking video, a debunk, and a Byakuya Kuchiki scale coming soon as well. Thanks a lot for watching, stay safe, please subscribe if you enjoyed, and I'll catch you thoughties next time. Peace out.